We have our guest, David Goa, and today we'll be talking about Jewish terminology and some very specific Jewish words. David Goa?
I've been interested for a long time in the way in which Judaism understands the divine. As you probably know, when the Torah is taken out in the synagogue and you come to the name of God, that name is never pronounced.
Fascinating.
They say Adonai or Lord, but they don't pronounce the name of God. There's a whole range of reasons for it, but the name itself is curious, because in fact it's not a name, it's not a noun. It's a conflation of all the tenses of a verb, the verb to be. Mm-hmm. So was, is, and shall be. The Hebrew words for each of those are conflated into YHWH. So the Jewish mystical tradition will translate it as being. But what is so, I think, significant about it is this notion that God is in a sense fills everything that is in dynamism. Mm-hmm. And there is the great mystery beyond that as well. Was, is, will be. So in the Jewish understanding of the divine, God is everything and the mystery to boot.
Okay.
So it's also one of the reasons that Judaism, of course, is concerned with the sanctification of time, and really as a set of spiritual disciplines, it's preoccupied with time. It's not preoccupied with sacred space in the same way. Sacred space, of course, and temples and what have you were ubiquitous in the ancient world. And at least many Jews see other religions as being kind of preoccupied with space, as opposed to their preoccupation with time. But that is another way, I suppose, of just accenting the kind of verb-like character of the divine, as opposed to a name which pins the divine down and locates it somewhere, or with a particular kind of responsibility or a particular kind of power. For Jews, the divine, the very name that is given of God, which is not a name, it is these tenses of the verb which speaks to existence, all existence that ever was or ever will be. The other, there's another Jewish word that I think is a lovely word that we should import into and enlarge the understanding in the Christian tradition about it. And that's the Hebrew word tikkun.
Tikkun.
Tikkun means repair.
Okay.
And it's, of course, a central human responsibility. When you harm, you must repair. Mm-hmm. I also know from Jewish colleagues and friends that some of them tend to see Christianity as having a kind of cheap notion of forgiveness.
Oh, go on.
Of course, they're not the only ones that have pointed that out. There are Christian theologians which have pointed that out. That is, when you have a notion of forgiveness which does not bind you to repairing the situation, it's a kind of cheap forgiveness.
Okay.
So for Jews, there's really only one time in the Jewish liturgical calendar when there is public confession, and that's on the Day of Atonement, where it's a fasting day, vigorous fast, and then there's public confession. But the understanding is that before that day, you need to repair the things that you have done which have been harmful to other human beings. So, Tikkun, to repair, I think is a very fruitful reminder of an aspect of forgiveness, an aspect of confession, an aspect of human experience that we need to extend and lay hold of. You need to repair what you've harmed. So, that's all I have to say about those two things.